one. Whew. Hey, Crumbs. We're live. We're live.
Are we? Are we finally? Is it going? Is it? Are we doing the thing?
We're doing the thing.
Doing the thing. We're
Oh,
doing the thing,
your
guys.
your audio is so loud. Why did I
Is
make you
it?
so? No, I made you so loud. That's me.
You made me so loud. Can you hear me now? Like one of those Verizon commercials.
I'm
Oh my
glad to.
goodness.
I'm glad that you're the Verizon commercial for me.
Can you hear me now, Nen? Huh? Don't make me come over there.
I'm doing. Oh my god.
Someday I will.
I'm being bullied right now, everyone. This is I just wanted to start the
I'm
thing.
not threatening. It's a promise. Genuine promise between besties.
um, oh,
You
so
ready, everybody? Let's go. Let's do
we
it.
should all be ready. Okay. I'm yeah. Welcome to today's episode of Global Comics Connects. Uh, I'm Nen. Sorry, I'm just. It's been a month and it's still a little new to me, but I'm always a little bit thrown. I'm Nen. I'm
Has
joined
it
by.
been a month already?
It's been a month, and I'm joined by
What?
my wonderful co-host, Jackson. And welcome to Global
Yes.
Comics Connects, the podcast where we connect with the community. Um, I need to modify a little thing on the screen. I'll do it in a second, but where we connect with the community and we like let you guys know how everything's going on our end and how and learn about how you guys are doing. I just tell you about whatever things that are coming up or any new plans that we've got going or any new things people we want to talk to related to the platform. Jackson, can you tell us what we're talking about today?
Oh man, we have a whole host of things we're going to be talking about today. In fact, I had to make an entire outline just to make sure that I don't forget everything because we've got so much amazing stuff going on today. We're going to be talking about Black historical creators who have, if you guys have noticed, we've been putting out some articles about some of the amazing Black creators in history. And then our most recent article that went out earlier this week was about creators who are current rising stars, people that you should be following right now, and all of them on social media. So I'm super excited to talk about that later. We're also going to be talking about growing as a Black creator and creating a community, kind of getting started. And then we're also going to be talking about, we're going to actually have two guests on here, which is also going to be really fun. We're going to be talking to some other creators. Nen, do you want to tell us who they are? Because
Uh,
I think they're both really cool.
we're going to be talking with Chris Hill of Rapture Burgers and Chris Rhodes of 10 Comics. Unfortunately, we couldn't really schedule them perfectly for today, so we did manage to get some great recorded interviews with them that we're going to be using as stand-ins for what we wanted to talk about. It's not perfect, but we're happy with
We got this. We got this going.
it.
So much amazing stuff going on. So the first item on the list that we have going on, Nan, if I may, is
Yes, you
talking
may.
about some of. Oh, thank you for the permission. I appreciate it. We're going to be talking about some of the creators that I've spoken about in the past. I actually wanted to. The way I split this creator series up. Was sort of looking at some of the first article was talking about some of the pioneers, right? And to be completely honest, a lot of these creators were creators that I didn't really know much about. Like I didn't know their names, but I'd heard about their work. So going through, like I went to art school, right?
Mm.
And we talked about like we had like a specific like history of illustration class, which was really fun. And so I remember bringing up like some of the names of these comics, but I didn't really know like who the creators were. So that was a really fascinating experience. Some of the creators that I talked about were Leslie Rogers and the Bungleton Green, which is like I think it's the longest running Black comic strip in U.S. history.
Yeah.
Do you want to guess when it started?
When did it start? Tell me. Explain.
1920, 1920, and all the way back to 1920.
So like we're going. So
In
what you're
fact,
telling me is today's thing. We're going all the way back to the 1920s, learning
yes.
about comics that from back then. Okay,
Mm.
all right.
Absolutely. So that comic actually it kept running all the way through time by having multiple creators work on it. Like it's pretty standard in comics where we have multiple creators to pick up the mantle. So Leslie Rogers is the creator that started this in the 1920s, and it went all the way until the 1960s. And some of the other creators that worked on it were Jay Jackson. Oh, my brain just dropped for a minute. Jay Jackson was one of the more notable creators. But it had a series of creators that sort of worked on it. And what was really fun about it is it was this man traveling through time. He had this like really big nose. He was traveling through time, sort of experiencing different society, like different moments in society. Sort of like it was like societal commentary, but he time traveled. It kind of like when I was I got to read part of it. It's actually uploaded somewhere. I was actually able to read a little bit of it, and it gave me like a Nemo and Sleepland kind of feel with like how it like every episode was a little episodic, but it was the same character kind of going around and experiencing different things and experiencing different people. This was like the next creator I wanted to talk about. I'm only going to talk about some of my favorite ones that I learned about. Was Zelda Jackie Orms. I hope I'm pronouncing that name correctly. I knew about her little like paper dolls because I learned about those in my history of illustration class. I had no idea where they had come from. It was created by an African American, a black woman, named Zelda Jackie Orms, and these were so famous that she like created, like they're still around, like they're collector's items now. They are everywhere, and like if you think about it, like her designs are freaking gorgeous. Her fashion sense. Holy like I'm not a fashion person. Okay, I'm not a fashion person, but it was really like I like doom scrolled looking through all of the different designs that I could find of her work.
People can see lots of these on the GlobalComix articles we've been writing about these, right? Over in the news section. I wonder, you know, I'm quite fascinated because I read a few of the articles while I was doing the work on the other half of the podcast, and I love looking back and seeing how interesting the work that was being made at the time was, because I think for a lot of people that that started out reading comics when they were young, you have this very specific perception of what comics always have been, right? You know, you think everything's always been a little bit of the big two, and like it's always been the same kind of stories that are being told. But it's always fascinating to find out that not only was comics this wide and diverse medium, basically from the get-go, it's always had lots and lots of different kinds of stories that they tell. Lots of different design aspects, lots of different art styles, almost like their own language every single time that's very separate from what you're used to typically, right? Am I getting that correct? Am I understanding the history?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And what was really neat is it was learning about some of like the earlier pioneers that ended up helping set the foundation for some of like the major publishers throughout history. For example, Atlas Comics, which became, more or less became Marvel. We also had Milestone Media, which, to be completely honest, I didn't know anything about before I started doing this sort of research. I mean, I had heard the name, but I didn't realize like some of its like major contributions. One of its major contributions, like to this day, is ultimately what became Static Shock.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And that's done by like one of my favorite creators today, Nicholas Draper Ivy. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. One of my like more like recent discoveries as far as like creators to follow. I didn't realize that was him, but I'd seen him through like mutuals and other people that would like retweet his work. I didn't realize that was him. And so like when I finally was like, oh my god, like this is this guy, like I even watched the Static Shock like cartoons as a kid. so I knew who Static Shock was. And I was like, oh my god, it's this guy. I know this comic. Like it was cool because I didn't know there was a comic. Like I knew of the cartoon. And then like this whole revelation that there was like this comic and it goes back to like this time in history. I was like going down this rabbit hole of, wow, I have missed out on so much stuff. There's so much stuff I have to read.
I'm unfortunately like, I'm unfortunately like very historically like I'm very present when I think about things. I haven't given the time. I feel like I should give more time now, especially hearing this about Static Shock, because if I'm being honest with you, big Static Shock fan over here, like most people, I think. And it's always surprising to hear it's always surprising to hear something that you thought was just was that you thought was this fascinating thing. Like, you know, because I watched the show. I didn't really read the comics. I know there's a current comic run of Static Shock, but I pretty much just watched the show, had loads of fun, became a big fan of the show, and didn't really think too much about it. But you're right. I knew about the comic beforehand, but I didn't know like all the backstory, all the
There's so much to it.
There's
It has so much. It has so much history. It's really worth digging into. And like now, I don't know how easy it is to like find some of that older stuff. But I'm definitely going to be like trying to look into some of the history and like the lore of the character that I didn't know was set like ages ago. So it's like a whole new world has opened up. It's like, whoa, wasn't ready.
Oh, that's actually really cool. I think one of the best parts of looking into comics history isn't just like realizing how diverse the comics in your local region, because it's all very region specific, right? Realizing how diverse the comics in your local region used to be and still are if you look for it. I think what's fascinating about it for me is it's a great time to realize how certain people became household names, and you just didn't realize it. Like a common thing that happened in the interviews that I had with the two creators that I'm gonna play a little bit of today was they kept reminding me that one of the main director and producer of the X-Men TV show. I think it's a 90s TV show. I don't remember. I know I watched it. I just don't remember when it came out. Was a black person. Was a black animator, and like that's something you don't think about a lot, you know, until you look into it and you read about it and you learn like what the background of a lot of the things that you love was, and it's great to know that like black creators have been underpinning, you know, the comics, animation, and art community as a whole for so long. It seems obvious in hindsight, but it's always great when you can like see it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and to actually like get to see some of that history and see some of these creators that have been there this entire time and were not spoken about. They weren't uplifted in the way that they should have been. And to just it's like opened up a whole new world of creators that I wish I knew more about. So like this whole project has just been so fascinating to me because I literally get to learn about this and then share this with other people who also need to know this.
Yeah, you've been sharing it with me. And people who don't know, I just, like I said last time, I get DM'd a lot of comics. This time I've just been DM'd history. I feel like
Did you know this? Did you know that?
Oh
Did you know about this person? Do you know about this comic? Oh my god, have you
Stop teaching me. I would like this one time. I would like to not know. I wish to remain unaware.
Unaware.
Yeah, it's just.
But who will I spam with my newly acquired knowledge that I must share, or else I will explode.
Oh my god, guys! Please help! I'm getting bullied. I'm getting bullied in the public forum. No, it's been super fascinating. It's been super fascinating, like understanding the history, understanding the culture, and like, you know, for me, it's been a very like, wow, I should have paid more attention. You know, it's been a lot of like, I should have noticed that more. How didn't I notice that? But honestly, very glad to learn it at this point, at least. I want us to transition to the second half, but I wonder if we should take a moment, do milestones a little bit, and then come to the second half of this.
Yeah, I think we can do that. Let's have a little break. Let's have some little fun. Let's do some celebrations.
Yeah, let's talk about our community a little more. So every podcast, what we try to do is we try to take some time to talk about the milestones that the community has reached. That's what creators like you have done to, you know, on the platform and showcased on the platform. And a big one for us the last one for us was page views, right? We had our first 1 million page view creator in It's AJ Art. But this time we've got a few things that we'd love to, a few people we'd love to talk about. Would you want to take the first one?
The first, yes. Do I get to talk about the million?
Yeah, you get to talk about the million.
Yes. Okay, cool. So recently, one of the things we love to celebrate is when creators hit the million views milestone. And just this week, was that this week?
It was this week. It was this week.
I can't even tell anymore.
It was this week.
Blurry for me. So this week we got tagged in an absolutely wonderful tweet from Jester on Mars, who is the creator of a Metamorphosis, We as Mortals, that hit their million view milestone. Mm-hmm. So yep. Oh, sorry. Page reads. What is English? Yeah. So either way, like, congratulations, Jester. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna drop a link in there for you because like you absolutely completely deserve all of the attention. Crushed? Yeah, absolutely crushed it. It's difficult to hit that million page reads milestone. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. Even if you have like 1,000 pages of content, you still need at least even if you would need 1,000 people to read every single page to reach that milestone. So that's a super crazy milestone. Congratulations from all of us at the community team. We are very proud of you.
And I think it's not just them. Mousy Lou hit it within that time period. Like, she was really close last time, but now
she was very close. Yes.
Yeah, but now she's like there, 1 million page view. And yes. Was there someone else? Am I missing someone?
Black Lotus, who hit it last time. I believe so far those are the only 3 million. Yeah, we've got quite a few creators.
Who hit 1 million page views last time, a month ago, is almost at 2 million. Dear God.
Right, we actually have quite a few creators and quite a few other comics from publishers that are getting really close to hitting that milestone. Yeah. So I'm hoping that next time we'll have like an entire list that we can just like throw out there and be like, hey, look at all these amazing comics.
Yeah, and also I just want to take a little second to welcome the people who are in the chat. Welcome Art Amazon and I forgot to say hi earlier, but welcome B. It's great that it's great when members of the community are here to listen to us talk about other members of the community and like share their opinions on all the different things that are going on. So I do want to just let you know that you are acknowledged and we care.
You can't see me, but I'm doing the cute little heart thing with my hands right now. I love you guys.
Can't take you anywhere.
Nope. Never.
I think another thing that's like great to know, and it's not the biggest thing, but it's just more and more creators are making good revenue. It's been really good to see, right? And like it's just great to see that like the success is compounding. It's continuous. It's evidence of the fact that when people put the time in and when people get their work out there, they get seen and they gain some success, and that's just a wonderful thing to be able to be a part of when you're in this community,
Oh, definitely. One of the things that we, like, if I can span that real fast, one that we noticed with a lot of our top creators, because when we did our top popular, which we talked about in our last podcast, like we separated into publishers and indie creators. One of the things that we noticed with the indie creators is those tend to be people that are actively engaged on at least one platform. A lot of them are also actively engaged on our Discord, but we also have our Twitter page, we have Instagram, and we're starting to expand into other areas like YouTube and other platforms. Where the people lurk, so where the people watch us to be. So yeah, we're trying to but that's one thing that we've noticed because I sit on media a lot, sort of making sure I answer people's questions, making sure everything's okay. And I those are the people that I notice that are actually active engaging with us. And so putting yourself out there consistently. Putting the effort in. It doesn't have to be like you posting 10 posts a day, but like if you're consistently figuring out ways to engage and not just dropping your links and running, like that's one really great way to really start building a community around yourself, which is one of the things we're also going to be talking about at some later in this podcast, is like going about starting to build a community for yourself, those sorts of things. All of that's really, really critical.
I think before we get into the community conversation, because there's a lot of conversation I think you and I have to bring up about community. I think it'd be great if we could take a little bit of time to learn from the two guests about how they got started. So I'm going to give a little bit of background to the class, and then everyone can know how to follow along from there. What happened was I really wanted to talk to Chris Hill. That's one Chris, the creator of Rapture Burgers, and Chris Rhodes, that's second Chris, the creator of 10 Comics. I'll be calling them Hill and Rhodes from now on to avoid confusion. And what I wanted to learn really was, their perspective on what getting into the comics industry as two black men was, because especially because they went into different parts of comics. Hill went into manga, and Rhodes went into American comics, and understand their different perspectives a little bit, which turned out to be not so different, and also learn a lot about who they were as people. I think that a little bit of background is in order. You know Hill a lot better than I do. Jackson, do you want to do some of the background?
Oh yes, Chris Hill and I have been friends for, oh man, a couple years now. We both make manga, and that was actually how we met. Was in Twitter Spaces about manga and comics. And I invited him to a silly little Discord that I have for creating manga, and we kind of just started talking, and like now he's one of my admins in there. He makes manga, but he started in working for NASA and some of the programs there, for specifically like the jet and some of the more like engineering type stuff, which is fascinating. That he started in engineering and ended up doing sort of like animation and directing, producing, and now he makes manga, which I can understand, like the animation, film, sort of like that sort of visual narrative stuff, and then going into manga. But to go from engineering into manga through various other means is fascinating. He also studies kendo, if I
Yes.
remember correctly, which is hella cool, hella not jealous, totally not jealous. That's so
Immediately
cool.
upon speaking to him, one of the first things he said to me was, in fact, you might get to hear that is, I practice with swords," and I was like, okay.
Yes. He also teaches it. Not only so he's good enough to teach it, but additionally he's actually traveling in Japan, and he went and made a small little sword himself with the help of a craftsman. And he's gonna be like, he has to go kind of like sideways to get it imported back into the States. But I've been seeing, he's been showing us photos of his trip in Discord. It's been super super cool just to see the
so
the amazing things that he does, and all of this love that he has, like all of these different. He's also a cook, really good cook. He gave me some of his preserves when I met him.
You're spoiling the audio.
No,
You're
okay,
spoiling the audio. Oh my
you
god!
told me to talk about
Yeah, I
him.
just didn't think you knew everything about him. I was like, oh, you know a few things.
I don't know everything.
I didn't think you knew the whole package. But yeah, fair enough. He's a really cool
I
guy.
introduced you.
You did. You did.
So
I should listen to you more when you tell me these things.
But yeah, Chris Hill is a super duper fun creator. I love listening to. Lots of good advice. Lots of different life experiences. Just a really fun person to be around, like in person as well. Because I got to have dinner and meet him in person when I was in LA, and was able to just sort of hear all the stories. And super fun person to listen to. Such a like, always has lots of things to say in like the best way possible. Like I could talk for hours.
Yeah, no, he's a genuinely swell guy. I had the amazing honor of speaking with Chris Rhodes. So not Chris Hill. There are two Chris's. A reminder: there are two separate Chris's in this conversation.
We would have three if our master and chief CEO was here.
Yeah, we'd have three. There was a moment when there was almost four Chris's in this conversation. You people do not know. Anyway, so Chris Rhodes, we're gonna just keep calling him Rhodes. He's a university professor. He wrote for Blavity. He wrote for Al Jazeera. He does all these really smart things, and he also makes comics. Which, look, I love comics. I just think it's really funny that the two people that we managed to find are people who are like really smart enough to teach other people and like impart knowledge, and they also make comics. And it's just this thing that they do and they love doing, and it's very inspiring, I guess, because from a me perspective, I just think, wow, if I was that, I wonder what I would do if I was that smart. Is this like when you become really smart, you like wrap around and you start making comics because you're like, I've done everything, why not do this? This is cool.
Yeah, comics is sort of like that. I'm going to dump all of my knowledge and experience and skills into making these comics, and I shall educate the masses, like, or just entertain or whatever. But yeah, comics seems to kind of be this magical place where everyone ends up at some point.
If you're putting questions in the chat, that's super cool. We will definitely get to them. We're actually we'll be logging them. I just want everyone to know that when we do this audio bit, when we do this interview bit, when we get to the community bit, we will get to your questions. So don't hesitate to just keep putting them in there because they will be seen.
Yes, give us all the questions.
Yeah, that's good to know. But yeah, so Rhodes and Hill were really smart, really great, and I kind of want to I kind of asked them a few basic questions, but I wanted it to be from I wanted to understand, as a when I started making comics as a young black person, it wasn't for me. It wasn't the same. I grew up in an environment where comics weren't as popular. So what I was doing was fun, and nobody really said much about it. There was no real big industry, so it was just kind of like it was a thing I did, right? But I think when it comes to somebody who grows up in the U.S. or anywhere else in a lot of other countries, there's a lot more of a developed environment for comics.
Yeah.
And so I asked them some very basic questions because I thought, what are the things that a young creator would want to ask? And the first thing I asked them was how they got into making comics. And I'm just going to play that audio now. This will be Chris Hill. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I would say it's very hard to get me to like give up on something. And sort of the original impetus to tell any kind of story at all, I just had some funny experiences during high school that I won't tell here, but um there were some motivations, including a relationship in high school where I just wrote into like a text document on my desktop computer, like a Microsoft Word, not Word, but just Microsoft Notepad. And I wrote the ending of a story down where I was like, here's a tragic ending of a story. The inspiration is this breakup that I just had. And so that sat there for years until we were basically chatting. My friend Adam, who's co-writer, we were like, yeah, you know what's big right now? Web comics. We should try to make one of those. And it was basically opportunism because one of my siblings could draw, and we were like, let's all come together and try to make a thing. And then I just sort of like really launched off into the hyperfixation of I'm gonna write thousands, tens of thousands of words of backstory for this world and for each individual character and what's their relationship with each
Being a
other.
shy. No,
Okay,
I've
the
not
audio should be
heard it.
coming through. I just want to make sure on the stream because I'm playing it right now. Can the stream hear it? Just wait for me to let chat tell me. I can always cut this section out. Just gonna check chat. Is the stream okay? Did you hear the audio? Because I could hear the audio. It was good.
Are those your friends talking to you again then?
Yeah, no, it was going through. Jackson, stop making me paranoid. Anyway, we're gonna continue the story.
Okay, okay, I want to hear the story. Okay.
And all this interconnected stuff. And then I was like, oh, well, this isn't really like a 4-panel strip thing anymore. So that's what sort of kicked that off. And then it was just wanting to tell a story, like really just like I have a story I want to tell. I don't care about like if it sells, I don't care if people like it. I just want to tell the story.
By Jackson terrifying me. Yeah, that was Chris Hill's whole kind of backstory to getting into comics. We're gonna listen to Chris Rhodes's as well, and then we'll go from there. I just want to make sure everyone gets their stories. Okay, and this will be Chris Rhodes, creator of 10.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I like to think I do some decently intelligent things, but I've also been a comic books fan for like I don't know 30 some years. Ever since X-Men the animated series came out. I started reading those tie-in comics. I think probably me and a couple of million other kids got comics that way. And so that's always been a passion of mine as a fan. And flash forward many years, it wasn't until 2020, I'm in my career, like you said, I'm teaching at the universities, I'm doing all this kind of stuff, I'm writing, nonfiction stuff, news, politics, all these kind of things. And then, pandemic and lockdown, and we're all sitting at home. And, with extra time on my hand, I start thinking, okay, like, what if I actually put my hand on writing something? I had ideas floating around, and it came together into this book. And once I had like a solid idea, first I tried to draw it myself, and then realized, hey, I'm not actually an artist. Surprise. But I managed to, find and hook up with some people all online who could draw the thing, could letter it, could color, these amazing talents. And it's like, oh wait, I might actually be able to put this comic book together.
Yeah, and like that's how the two of them got started. Like, for Chris Rhodes, it was 100% a me and my boys, me and my boys down at the docks, are gonna get together. We're gonna make this comic, and for Chris Hill, it was very much a me and my boys are gonna make this comic together. Me and my friends, and for Chris Rhodes, who started making comics a lot later, it was very much a pandemic thing. I'm a talent. I'm a writer. Again, he's a writer. He's written for Al Jazeera. He's been writing nonfiction for a while, and then he realized, I like comics. Why don't I try? And I think it's quite fascinating how Chris Rhodes' story is the most common story I've heard for getting into comics lately. Um, but Jackson, I don't know what have you got? What have you heard?
Sounds like both of these guys, like with Rose, like my immediate thought was like that sounds like the best, like the both like the best scenarios for like the best types of projects, because they always start with like, hey guys, I have an idea. like why don't we do this? It's like the best possible like way. I think that's really important in terms of like in general, is to focus on finding like your group, right? Like find your group, find people who like share the passions that you do, and like really focus on like figuring out a way to, like, and if you don't have that, like go find them. Like you cannot create well in like a vacuum.
For sure.
I mean, even if like you're just inspired by other people, like if you were to create in a vacuum, you'd never be inspired by anyone. You'd never look up references. You'd never be inspired. Like you would not have that. And then having a group of people that believe in the same thing that you do, that want to do the same thing that you do, especially if it's like the same project that you want to do, is like so key to like getting your start. But yeah, like that was like probably like my favorite part of like just starting to build a comic, was getting a community put together.
Yeah, like it's interesting as well, because like to kind of tie into our later conversation around community, like your initial community in comics is often not people who are there to read your comic, although they do read it, right? Your initial community is often people who are there to help you make your comic. That's an interesting thing to realize, because it's kind of like you're like, as Chris Hill said, he surrounded him. He had a buddy who was a co-writer. He had someone he could talk to about these stories, someone he could develop these ideas with. And he also kind of made sure to take ideas that he had and brought them to the table. So he was like, I'm bringing stuff to the table. And I've got a buddy who I can trust, who can like check me.
Yeah, the feedback, exactly. Yeah, it's really critical you get that feedback like as early as you can in the process, because if you don't ask for that feedback, then you're not going to know what to fix, and you're not going to know what you're doing well. That's one of the really important parts with having that community around you, is not only to like uplift people, but to say, hey, like as your friend, I'm going to give honest feedback, and I'm giving this to you because I want to see you succeed. That's really, really important to have like friends and a community that you trust to give you like both types of feedback, right? You want to get the what you're doing well and the what I need to improve in a good way, right? You don't want to have friends. Yeah, you don't want to have friends that criticize you, that give you negative feedback that isn't helpful, that isn't constructive. You want to get that positive feedback, and so you want to be sure that you're identifying those people like within the creator space, whatever social platform you're on, is look for those people that are building those sorts of communities.
Yeah,
and go and be there.
Yeah, I think that was that. No, that's for sure the thing. And then I further spoke to Chris, to Hill, because I was like, you know, I appreciate how you got started. I really wanted to understand what was driving his decisions, right? So Hill and I spoke about this. What was driving him forward in his creative endeavors? Um, and he gave me a very blunt, but very, in my opinion, great answer. I'm just gonna play that because I just want us to get to that one as well.
I don't know. I make books sometimes. I've been pitching animation. I do stuff. I'm trying to, yeah, I'm trying to just make the stories that I want to tell. And I work in tech as a day job. I do Japanese sword martial arts. I do lots of things. I cook. I just sort of follow my interests. Like, what am I? The secret is, instead of like shotgunning myself to a whole bunch of things that people think I should be good at, I focus on the ones that I am actually like heavily motivated by and get like obsessive about. And I just focus on those and do them until I'm not interested in them anymore.
And I love the fact that I went to a person who, to me, is such a professional, and his response was to why he does the thing he does, and I'm kind of a little jealous that he's good at. Is I hyperfixate, bro. I
That's such a
hyperfixate
mood.
good.
Such a mood. It's such a mood. But that's what makes you really good at drawing like certain things, right?
Yeah.
Like I really love drawing. I love being in nature. I love the environments, and like that's something I hyperfixated on, was drawing backgrounds and environments, and like now that's something that like I'm known for, right?
Yeah.
At least within my community. So if you have that thing that you're passionate about, don't be ashamed in like focusing on that. Like you need balance, right? We need balance.
Yeah.
But like if you have something you're super passionate about, like pursue that thing and like try to be like known for that thing, because like if you don't have that passion, if you don't have that like obsessive like love for what you do, like
Yeah.
you may burn out, right?
It's easy to burn out. I think even when you do, it's easy to burn out. But I agree with you. It's easy to burn out more when you don't love the thing that you're making. And like I think for a lot of newer creators to the space, especially if you're a minority, you're trying to figure out what stories you want to tell, trying to figure out how to tell what stories you're allowed to tell. Because I feel like when growing up black, one of the things that you get made to feel like you have to tell stories about is stories about like difficulty and hardship, and you feel like you have to do that. You feel kind of like railroaded down that location. A lot of people who tell LGBT stories will definitely have a similar relationship with this, in terms of you feel like you have to tell the story about the big sad, and it's great to feel liberated in the way that Hill and Rhodes as well talk about telling the stories. I want to say this. I want to tell the story that appeals to me the most. I want to be um, I want to be the kind of creator that I want to make the things that I want to read later.
That makes sense.
And then in B says in chat, in my opinion, when someone gives you critique that is actually helpful and motivating, it makes me happy because it feels like they know you have the potential and want to see you do great things. Yes, like it's I think this is a great start to the introduction of like getting started, especially when you're coming from a minority background. It's this you gotta have your hyperfixation. To some extent, comics is a hyperfixation. It's all hyperfixations.
Yeah.
It's hyperfixations all the way down, dude.
Comics.
All the way down.
I posted a little meme on Twitter that shows like the guy sweating with like the button choices.
Yeah.
And one of them is comics, personal art, and a full night's sleep.
It's hyperfixation.
It's such a mood.
All the way down, baby. And then like you also got to get that community around you, that initial group of people who really care about what you're making, who really care about you and you making good stuff. And part of that is them being able to criticize you in a meaningful, helpful way, like B talks about in chat. And I think that's great to realize is a part of the initial setup. I think a lot of creators miss this because they create in a silo, which isn't their fault. Making things is very personal and it's very hard. And again, I said they deal with the problems of things that they're meant to make. And I worry that they do that, but it's great to hear from these more seasoned people, these more seasoned creatives, that you don't have to be in these holes. You don't have to be in these silos. You get to move yourself forward as much as you want. In fact, we're gonna have a little more from Hill because Hill talks to me. Hill talks to me a little bit about the stories that what it meant about the stories you were meant to make as a Black creator. Do you want to say some stuff before I go there, or would you want to go right into that audio?
I think we can go right into the audio. I'm gonna let Chris speak for himself.
Oh, he's gonna. First, you know everything about him. Suddenly, let
You
him
don't need
speak
my
for
help.
himself.
You don't need my help. He can do it by himself.
Okay, let me play the audio now.
So my relationship with like American comics was that when I was, I don't know, 9, 10, 11, we had a youth pastor who was close to our family, and as a reward sometimes he would let us go into his chest of American comics that he had. I also watched like the X-Men animated series, which I believe was actually created by a Black guy. Because I watched those and like the Spider-Man and I read those comics, I just forget any kind of influence from them at all. It just doesn't even register because I think it's just so common in our culture now in American culture, at least with all the superhero projects. But I think it actually just made me like sick of superheroes. There's a few different things around being like a Black person in a creative space. One of them is that you can market yourself as I'm a Black person in this creative space. And some of that comes with some baggage around, okay, Black person in this creative space. The stories that you're going to make have to be about the Black experience if you're going to like market on being Black and your Blackness. And I'm just not like huge on that. I personally, my feeling is that Black people should be able to make mediocre content. They should be able to make like stories about other races. They should be able to make anything that they want and have them embrace just the same instead of being like, oh, this is a Black movie. This is a Tyler Perry movie for Black people specifically.
So like when the way that conversation came together, and I think it really helps kind of build up how we got there, was I was talking the question I brought up to him was what do you feel about when you're told that you have to make a certain kind of story? And the first place he came at it from was what he felt was the cultural norm for him, the superhero comic, right?
Yeah.
And that's where he started from. That's why he went there. That were the superhero norm. And he was like, I feel like I read all these things and they just kind of bounce off of me because it's so normalized. I want to make different stuff. And then the later half is him talking a lot more about that Black experience. And like, he's right about that very strongly. He's going to bring it up later again because I know he is. But what it is like, when you're a minority creator, you want to tell stories. You get told, make this, make that. If you're gonna say I'm a minority creator, you have to quote unquote market yourself on the work that talks about your minorityness. And I think Hill's perspective here is great because it's this no, make bad stuff if you want. Write garbage. It's okay. Frankly, you don't have to write things that that make you feel like you belong to whatever in group makes up the comics that you're supposed to be making, quote unquote. Write whatever you want. Write garbage, write great stuff, write about the moon, write about the sun. I don't care. Just write what makes you happy. And I think that's such a positive little message.
It is, yeah. It's something popular in like the manga space where sort of like if you make manga like what's like a lot of like the US especially like specifically like I'm not talking only about the US like manga readers, like a lot of us are only exposed to like the big popular manga, so like like from Jump or Viz or from like I'd even say like Yen Press, Kawa, like that's what we're exposed to, right? We don't know like the wide variety of like what manga can be because like the indie manga culture is still kind of young and it doesn't have the huge like breadth of diversity and strength that like the doujinshi culture in Japan has, which is like basically the indie manga culture there.
Yeah.
And so I feel like right now we're sort of in this space where like people are starting to expand and say, oh well, I can write about manga about this and I don't have to make it a shonen battle manga.
Yeah.
Like I can make it about anything I want, which is really, really cool.
It's great to know that the limitations of whatever culture your content is linked to, your comics are linked to, is something you can break free of. Because you don't have to live by those rules. Those are made up rules. And I appreciate that a lot. I love the manga explanation because it's something that you hear a lot as a reader as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, or also that like, oh, like you're not from Japan, you can't.
You can't make manga. Yeah, you're right. And
Yeah, that's the thing that's still out there.
I think that's short sighted in the world of comics because this is this amazing medium that we use to communicate all the different things that we feel, and being myopic, being limiting in what people can make or how they can approach their content is just it's the best way to make it so that people don't make interesting stuff, and that's
Yep.
unfortunate.
Yeah, kind of like contain it within a box, and you just stifle that creativity. So
Yeah. Okay.
yep.
I want us to finish up this conversation with them, and it's going to just be the last bit. It was great to talk to them because the last thing I asked them really was, hey, you know, let's say I'm a young minority creator coming out here. I'm out here in the streets, and I want to
In the
create
world.
in the world, right? I'm out here, my pen in hand. What what advice do you have for me? What thoughts do you have that I should be thinking as well? And this is going to be from both Rhodes and Hill. Um,
Mm, I mean, the simple advice would be write the stories you're passionate about because following trends, the trends are always going to change, and by the time you finish, they may have changed already. And also, the sort of trend following, you end up just being derivative after a while. Every once in a while, something does come out that it sort of deconstructs or redefines a particular set of tropes that have been used a whole lot. But for minority creators, and I think this is true for most minority creators, there's absolutely an audience where you focus wholly on that minority and say, I am making stories only for you. If people outside of this minority appreciate it, cool. But I want to go extreme on my representation. I want 100% cast of non-binary characters or 100% black characters or whatever it may be. And I do think there's an audience for that. You just have to be very careful if you're not actually from that minority group or if there's intersectionality that you don't fully understand about how that minority intergroup how that minority group interacts with other aspects or overlapping minority things like neurodivergent and queer.
Yeah,
so that was Hill's notes on that. I'm just gonna play Rhodes's, and we can go from there. Sorry, my bad. I clicked the wrong unmute button because I wouldn't interrupt the audio that was coming through. Anyway, this is gonna be Chris Rhodes's bit. Uh,
I would say, first of all, don't ask necessarily, what kind of stories you should be telling. Start, what kind of story do you want to tell? You know, and so I came up, with this book. At the end of the day, it's the type of superhero story that I want to read. And so, in there, I've seen, I've read some fantastic works, over the years, over decades. But it's like, if I could come up with my ideal story, the characters, the settings, the plots, all these kind of things, um, what would it be? And it's this. And I'm writing for myself as an audience first and foremost.
and yeah, those are the opinions of the two of them about as advice for younger creators. With Hill focusing a lot more on look, you can market yourself along the lines of the things you're supposed to write, but at the end of the day, be very aware of what you're doing and understand the baggage that comes with. And but also make things you enjoy, and then with Rhodes as well coming in saying, you know, the reason he started making stuff because Chris Rhodes is a lot newer to comics. He started making stuff was because he wanted to find something that made him happy, the ideal version of everything he always wanted to see. And it's that saying, right? Be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes. Yes.
Also, just to everyone to know, the bit with Chris Hill didn't cut off. We started talking about Macross, and I distracted.
Macross is cool though.
Yeah,
How dare
but-
you? How dare you prevent me from enjoying some Macross?
In the advice bit, we got sidetracked with Macross. It's a whole thing, but it was. You could talk to him about literally everything.
I'll be sure to bug him later about it.
No, he's great. He's great. And like I think that was great advice for a starter. You know, a new Black creator. And I really appreciate Chris Rhodes's input on this and Chris Hill's input on this, because not only are they both older creators, people who have been making for a long time and have that wisdom about them, they're also people who are, you know, willing to try new things and work on new things and are continually experimenting. And so they're in this great position where they can give you the kind of advice that it's hard to get for free or on your own. And so I really appreciate that from them. That's the last bit, and that's the last bit there on starting out. But I wanted to kind of continue the community thread from both of them.
Right.
That was cool. Because like the thing is that's fundamentally happening here is they're saying find your hyperfixation, make things you love, make things that make you happy, find people around you who can like keep you in check. But what other community things as building a community you should one be aware of, Jackson?
Before we get to the questions, one of the things I want to be sure about, the biggest thing is branding.
Branding.
Branding, and when I say branding, I don't just mean or what's the name that you chose. I mean, both those are critically important. Always. And if you have a really common name, so I mean, for example, my given name, I go by Jackson now, but previously I went by Cat Jackson, and there are a lot of Cat Jacksons out there. The most famous one is Kat Von D, and I would have people go all the time, OMG, like Kat Von. Do I look like Kat Von D? No.
Your audio cut out when you screamed OMG Kat Von D. And honestly,
I'm sorry.
Bless the world. I didn't want to know anything about Kat Von D.
But it's always important to sort of look at one, what is the competition with the name that you're using, and be aware, are there any other really big popular that it might become a problem with the name that you're
So
also
that name is really just because there was a few cutouts just to make sure something. So that name is really important because you want to make sure it's unique, but representative, right?
Yeah. You want to be sure that it's very clear that it's you and that it's something that you can use in branding and say this name and go, oh, it means that person. Another really important thing to check is your website. So type in whatever your name is .com and see what happens if people do that.
Oh.
One time when I was in college, I typed in catjackson.com and it went to a photography website. Not bad on its own, but it had a black background with orange papyrus font. And as a graphic design / animation student at the time, I did not want people thinking that I overused papyrus on absolutely everything from the photo titles to the photo descriptions to the menu at the top. And I'm like, oh my god, that's not me. And then other times it's gone to some someone else bought the domain at a different point and it went to not safe for work website. Put it that way.
Okay.
So double check
domains. Actually, a little bit of free advice. That is still mostly true. It depends on where you live, but depending on where you live, you check your local laws. If your name is unique enough, or if a domain is just yourname.com, you can often get it, even if someone else has bought it, if it's not their name as well. Without having to spend a bunch of money. You can often make a request. Yeah, it depends on where you live. Some countries have the law, but you can often make if it's your literal government name. If it's your literal government name, then yes, you can often make a request and you may not have to pay. But it depends on where you are and lots of things, and you may start to pay a little bit, but it will never be worth as much as the name was worth. So if you have a very uncommon name like my given name, I literally just typed the name .com. Website's not being used. So I'm just going to get it anyway.
The other thing with branding, really quickly, is to make sure that wherever you are, you link to your socials. So or have somewhere where people can find all of your socials.
Yes.
So for example, like I'm not an Instagram person, but if I find someone's work on Instagram and I prefer to use Twitter, I'm gonna say, hey, does this person have a Twitter? Or do they have a YouTube? Like I'm going to go looking for those other places. So you want to make sure that it's really easy to find your other links, right? Because I mean, you want people to follow you in as many places as possible. Make it easy for them. Don't make them go looking for.
No, I agree with you. I think it's a big thing people don't do. I am I'm unfortunately trapped on the Bird website, and so I'm regularly going to Twitter, and like often when I find a creator I really like, I literally type their username on Twitter. But also, even when we do like this branding thing, because this is all for building your community, the branding is so important, right? Because even when we do promo as a platform, right, we often try to make sure we can tag you in as many places as possible so people can see you, and so you're being promoted, and so you can see that we're trying to get you that engagement. And when you don't have a clear set of like ads, so to speak, it's just a lot harder to find you. I would recommend always finding a structure for your ads and using the same. Don't be that person who finds out that your username's gone on Twitter, but available on Instagram and gone on like TikTok, and then put an underscore in one place and not in the others. I would just put an underscore everywhere.
Yeah. I've done that with art crumbs because there's a lot of art crumbs out there. There's like 3 of us on YouTube that I know of. And so like I try to be just art crumbs everywhere. So what I've done to sort of if you search your names and someone already has it, one of the things that you can do is use the same avatar everywhere. That way, if they don't recognize your name, or if they see a bunch of people that have the same name, they can go, oh, I know that avatar, I know that profile picture, like I'm gonna pick, like, it's obviously that person. So do whatever you can to sort of like universe all of your profiles as best you possibly can.
Universally keep your profiles similar. So like branding is really important, but when it comes to the community aspect, I think a great thing that was asked that leads off from branding was from B, who was like, what's a good way of getting your name and works more out there, right? Mostly without feeling like you're shoving your comic links everywhere or undersharing, if that makes sense. And that makes complete sense, B. I think the first thing I want to start off with is B, you can never overshare. One of the things that I learned from advertising, and one of the things that you definitely learned from advertising, you just don't you may just not realize it yet, is putting things in people's faces makes them go to it, even if they complain. You want to?
Well, I've seen this thing like 20 times this week.
I might as well see what it is about. Like, you want a real life example of that? I use Instagram for exactly 2 months. One time, never again. And during that period of time, Instagram gave me ads every day trying to figure out what I liked.
There's actually there's 2 really well-known examples I can think of. The Duolingo bird is in your face to learn languages, right? Yeah. Like, classic example. But one of my favorite Twitter accounts is called Cheaton, and it's just this person that dresses up in like an otter costume and like just does like chaotic things across the internet. And they have ads. Like, they get ads on Twitter, and it's just for fun.
They're a fake Japanese city mascot.
Yeah, it's just crazy things. Like they go jump in the ocean, or they go bungee jumping, and they just do absolutely silly, crazy things. But like, I know who that person is because I see their ads like 10 times a day.
Yeah,
and I love it.
And like on my Instagram ad story, it's just like the Instagram ads I kept getting over and over and over again. It felt like I was being watched, to be honest. It would randomly just tell me. I think the one I got was for Moonpod.
Moonpod.
It doesn't exist anymore. That's why I mentioned it. It's literally a dead product. But they kept throwing it at me over and over and over and over again. And it got to the point where I just eventually had to search it up just to know what it was about. And I found a YouTube video about it to find out that the website, that's how I know the product's gone. But like, it's just when things are in people's faces, they will look. They will look for it. So when your branding is consistent, when you make it easy to find you, and things are in people's faces, they will find you. It's always, it's a pipeline upwards. And that's like That's what that's like the splatter marketing that you can start with, but it's not the only thing you can do. And I know it doesn't make you the most comfortable, and it doesn't make anyone the most comfortable. I think you even said in the chat, I had to do that. Only my IG is different from my older socials with the underscore, but they're all the same name. That's still good, keeping the names similar. But yeah, people don't really like that, the feeling of like the kind of splatter marketing you have to do.
One of the things that's important to think about though is establish consistency as best you can. So like one of the things that I've noticed we've noticed on GlobalComix, like when you're like part of your branding is also how consistent, how often are you putting. We actually did mention that
how
as far as
consistent and often you're putting stuff out.
Yeah, my recommendation would be to create like consistency is more frequency.
Yeah.
Right. As far as like as far as publishing a release, if you always publish, like even if you post once a month, let's say you publish on the first day of the month every single month, eventually people will know it's the first day of the month. I gotta go check. Like that's far more valuable than just posting on like random days. Or if it's like the first Monday of each month, they're gonna, oh gosh, it's the first Monday. Like the reason why, like in the streaming days, it's a little different, but back in my day, TV shows showed on the same time every day on the same channel, and as a young kid, I remember like my mom and like my family like building our lives around what we watched on TV because
it was a whole ritual. It was a whole ritual.
Ritual, yes.
You sat down to watch Lost together. And you experienced that pain together.
It had a whole schedule. Yeah, like we made it a schedule. And so if you can do that for your audience as well, to be predictable in when you post, whether it's once a month, like the majority of the top 10 on GlobalComix didn't post every week. That I think like maybe one or two did. Like, so you don't have to post weekly. You don't even have to post monthly. Like heck, like the first year, some of the comics that we'll put up there only posted once a quarter. So like they could. Yeah, so like consistency, whatever spacing apart you decide, holding to that as best you possibly can is far more critical than
also
making sure
it worth it for them a little bit is also important. But not
like if you can have like a whole chapter done and you post every other month, do that. Yeah. If that's what you prefer. Like there's also a bingeability factor. Like people are like, why aren't I getting a lot of reads? Well, you got 17 pages. Like it's gonna take a lot longer get to 1,000 reads who has 500 pages up. Like when you're starting out, like you have to be patient and it'll snowball. I've noticed that with my own manga. Like now that I have like the Mangaka Diary and I have God's Bane and the pilot up and I have like all these other like small up, like it's snowballed and like now I'm slowly getting more week as I publish things because there's just more content to read. So there's that. And then with the as far as like, sorry, one more thing is like the consistency as far as like, posting, like make a schedule, like maybe post on Mondays on Twitter and on Wednesdays on Fridays on Facebook, like figure out a schedule for yourself as well and stick to that. Like people will get used to seeing your posts there as well. And like my recommendation is supposed to at least one place a day, like somewhere on the internet every single day, post somewhere. That way, and you can schedule that. We have worksheets that we've created. We have articles we've created about all of this. Please feel free to reach out to me if you want access to those. I'm always like happy to share that. I'll actually share you guys share a link right now that shows all of our marketing we've made to help you guys with that.
Yeah, we have a lot of marketing tutorials. And the thing is also, I think just to add on a little bit to the the sentiment here is when it comes to this like oversharing, I know it doesn't always feel great. So don't fixate on this one thing, because this is one part of your bigger strategy, right? There's a bigger strategy at play. This is the part that you use to get yourself access to people who've never seen you. For people who've seen you, for people who know you, you often want to focus on the kind of community that you can build there. A lot of creators have their own Discords for their creator friends, or they have, they join a Discord for a platform that they're on, like the GlobalComix Discord. You can get there. It's a place. I think the link is in the description. And so for creators in those situations, it's a different game you're playing at that point, right? You're no longer playing the game of let me just throw my marketing into the screen, into the sky. You're playing a different game of, hey, you know, I want to meet people who are like-minded like me, who I can learn from, who I can work with, people who I respect. Right? This isn't about making friends for clout. This is about making a group of people, or meeting a group of people who can understand the things that your concerns you may have as a creator, and maybe have experience in dealing with them at the level at which you're at, because things affect people at different levels, right? What affects a massive creator it may not affect you in the same way, right? So you want to be able to meet somebody who's been, you know, who's been a creator with only 40, 50 reads a week, who understands, like, hey, you know, one of the problems you're having is you're not posting here, or one of the problems you're having is you don't have a clear, your title's not clear, or stuff like that. All the way to when you get bigger and you meet people who are bigger, who will be able to then tell you, you know, when you're at this level, this is how you get published, and blah blah blah. You always want to have a community around you of people you can give advice to and get advice from. And I think that's like a layer that adds on to this whole like spider marketing, is that these people will read your work and will care about your work because, you know, you're a peer, you're a person that they can relate to. So that's something you want to also build into your thought process. It doesn't have to be by force. These people you'll meet them over time, but just when you meet them, you know, show them that you care, and they'll show you that back. That's just how people are.
Yeah, there's definitely something to that, as far as like, you know, like learning how to promote. Like also, like, to answer the question, there was another question that I saw here from our Amazon. She asked about maybe more tips on engagement. I feel like I'm definitely guilty of learning. There's so many different ways to promote yourself, right? Like there's direct marketing. Yeah, there's direct marketing, there's indirect marketing. One of my, like, I'll give an example. So like, one of the things, I engage on Reddit a lot. I like posting to Reddit. I like talking on Reddit. I have like a very few small group of, and I don't know how people feel about Reddit, but hear me out. there's like the Clip Studio subreddit I really enjoy, because like I love Clip Studio. I like finding assets. I like other people use the software so that I can use it efficiently. That's but one of the other things that's really like that's fun, is to just sometimes just go there, post, and just talk. And you know, now that I engage there and I talk there, like I'm an actual member of the community. I'm not going there to get something. I'm going there because it's a community that I actually
You're not going there to
engage in.
get some what? Sorry, you cut out there.
Oh, to get views and engagement. I'm going there to just be there and to be around other people who like the software that I like.
Yeah.
Software that I use.
Yeah, no, I think that's super valuable. Yeah.
Right. But so for example, like with the direct marketing, and here's an example. If I say, "Hey, here's my newest update of my manga. Go read it." You know, that's very clearly marketing. That's very clearly, "Hey, go read my stuff." If I just post character art and say, "Hey, here's some new characters that I made." Nowhere in there did I say, "Go read my manga." But if I change what I say very slightly to, "Hey, here's some characters that I'm making for my manga. Can I get some feedback?" One, people love giving feedback. Two, if people get to check out cool characters. And three, I said there's a manga for these characters. If someone likes these characters, oh my gosh, where's the manga? Can I read it? And I've used that exact scenario when I've posted in different subreddits. I've posted in like Monster Girls, and like I've posted in like talking animal characters, like subreddits about animal characters, subreddits about world building.
Yes.
Yeah, like I've taken like some of the different types of characters that I have, and the types of like themes, tropes that I have. Like my main character is a Byronic anti-hero. He's an edgy boy. So like I post like pictures and lore of him in the subreddit.
Yeah.
And I can meet other. I'm only talking about the character, but if I like offhandedly mention that it's also part of manga, people may go, "Oh, hey, this is for a manga. What, can I read it?" And then boom, new reader, drop the link. You know, so like there's direct and right, but that's what I mean. There's like direct and indirect. Asking for feedback is one of the best ways to get reads, because they have to read your stuff to give you feedback.
Well, yeah, to some extent, yeah. I think also it's just, but what's very apparent here is like a big part of the marketing funnel you're playing is you're trying to make people care as much as you do about the thing you care about. And I
But
think
give
that's like
back too.
yeah, but like the thing is, that's the big feedback. Like it doesn't matter whether you're asking them for feedback or anything else. The thing is, when you post your pictures of your art and you see, show them what you're making, you show them what you're doing, it allows them to build a bit of an attachment to what you've made, which makes it easier for them to come back and actually look at what you're putting out there. So if your thing is you're worried about being the person who drops art links and runs, like you're not letting the people you want to see your stuff care about your stuff. You're not engaging, you're not talking about it. Like I guarantee you, there are very few comic communities in the world where people don't just want to sit down and talk about their own characters. But what's great about that is if you're with people who are friendly, people who understand what you're making, people not even they don't understand, people who are interested in the medium, especially, they will always be happy to learn about how other people are engaging with something. It doesn't have to be a selfish way of bringing it up, but it's just there's lots of ways to talk about your work in relation to other people. I think another thing that is very common in the community is sometimes people are a little bit selfish about how they talk about themselves. It's okay to, enter a conversation and someone is saying that they write anti-hero characters and they love anti-hero characters, they love vampires or whatever, and you can be like, I really love vampires, I've been reading this vampire comic, and then they may get into a conversation that really relates to your thing, and you can go, oh, I actually write something that's like this, and this is the thing, right? It's not about and then you give them some space. It's not about throwing. It's like splattering works, but the splatter method works when you want to get your work all over the place, when you want everybody to know that you've made something. But there's also more subtle things that you want to be doing, and a lot of the subtle methods require you to carefully, slowly kind of convince people that you are doing something interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And like it takes time. I think one of the big things that's going to come out of this for you, and you may not like to hear this, and I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not, but I'm going to say I'm sorry.
How dare you?
It takes time. How dare I? It takes time. Like the people we're talking about, Chris Hill's been making comics for like 10 years minimum, making manga for like minimum 10 years.
Yeah. Longer than me. I've only been making manga for about 6 years. So
for about 6 years, yeah. He's been making manga for like 10 years straight, minimum. Like, Chris Rhodes, although he's been making comics for about 3 years, he's been a writer for like ever.
yeah,
basically.
Long history though, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like you're one of the things that's also really important in the marketing funnel is remembering that these are gentle, gradual steps that you're making. And they're not going to be massive immediately. If they are, good for you, but they're not always massive. And so and in this industry, so often, the winner of the race, quote unquote, if we say there is one, is often the person who is there, who's just still there.
Patient, yeah, patiently, slowly getting there. Like I mean, I don't know. Like I've been writing Bane for 14. I just had my 14-year anniversary.
You had your 14-year anniversary for God's Bane?
Yeah, as far as like for writing and planning it,
Yeah.
I started writing it in 2010. As far as like designing the characters, like what kind of world I would want, I took it all the way through college. Like the first version of the comic book, because it was just a Western style comic book initially, was in my senior thesis in 2015. So 5 years later, I made the first book, which was only 16 pages, and it took me 5 years to get to the point. I mean, to be fair, I didn't start drawing until I was 18, which was oh god, what year was that? 2009? Yeah. So like that was when I started drawing. Like so like I started drawing like as an adult. I was already entering adulthood. So like I gave myself 5 years to figure out figure that out. But yeah, anyway, my point is like I just started drawing the main like the first like real pilot of God's Bane in 2022. And like this year later, I'm not sure when, probably around June, I'm going to put out like the first, like I am finally committed to doing the real thing. Like I'm not going to reboot again. Like I'm not doing another pilot. It's just like, this is the real deal. But it took me 14 years to figure out what I wanted, because God's Bane's been like an animated short, like 4-minute animated short to like a Western comic that was in a painted style, then a Western manga style. It was a vertical comic in limited color, and then it became like this like hand-drawn manual screen tone manga, like, which was a pain in the butt, and like now it's digital. Like now it's all completely digital, except maybe some sketches. But like,
it's all
like
completely digital.
right. So like it takes time to get to that point. But like if I had given up, before I went on K-pop, I may have a manga. It may still be in vertical, like who knows? And so you have to be really patient with yourself and be willing to try
Just a quick check,
different
because you cut out a
things.
little bit there. You said if you gave up before you went where?
Before I did my internship, so I interned at a manga publisher.
Yeah.
Yep. Shortly after I joined GlobalComix, I interned at a manga publisher. Joined GlobalComix as like a creator because I also just celebrated my 6th comics creator
of being on GlobalComix. Yeah.
Yeah, a long time ago. But like even then, like still had a period of time where I had to figure out what I wanted to do. And it's the same with marketing. Like you have to take time to figure out, okay, what type of posts work well for me. How much time am I willing to commit? How do I promote? Like most people don't know what UTMs are, which is a really valuable brand is a really valuable tool in marketing. It's super. You don't have to use it, but it's incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
And
Before
so
let's not get too technical. But there's lots of different things that we know work for marketing, and UTMs are really big. Or for us in GlobalComix are pretty big and important. And so we recommend that you try to understand all the different ways people get to you. One of the best things about being on GlobalComix, and this is, me tooting our horn a little bit, is GlobalComix does its best to help you know where your people are coming from, how people are finding you and getting to your work. And that's a very useful part of it. And UTMs are a useful aspect of that, because what they allow you to do is essentially track where people are coming from a little bit more granularly. And we think that and we just think we basically believe that when it comes to your marketing, other than the behaviors that you display, having the data to be able to back up your thoughts is super important. And so instead of getting super technical, if you want like an understanding of how we use that or how these data points work, there's an article in the chat. And also you can always book a sit down, a creator sit down with Jackson. It's very easy. You can just email. And you can email using our contact email or whatever, and it's really easy to get to us, or just find us on Twitter.
Just reach out to me on social media, send me a DM, and we can talk about it.
Yeah, or Instagram for Jackson. I refuse to open Instagram. I'm sorry.
Just reach out to us on social media, and I'd be happy to help. That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
is to help you guys grow. I'm always willing to with creators and figure out what are you doing now and what can we do to get you
where you want to go, to get you where you want to go. It's super great. Okay, we've talked about a lot of things that we've been doing. We've been talking to. I kind of want, if there's any last minute questions, now's a great time to put them down. We'll take them in the Q&A section. I kind of want to talk a little bit about GlobalComix, the company, though, right now, just really quickly. We are a content company. We work with comics. We're a comic company, and so the best part of this is working with a bunch of nerds. All of them are nerds. All of them, and some of them listen to the podcast too. I just want them to know that I think they're all nerds, and those nerds gave us a bunch of suggestions of the things that they've been reading that they want us to tell you guys about, because not only do we love reading comics as a company, we love sharing them, we love getting people excited about what we're reading. And so I just wanted to give you some of the staff recommendations from the staff. First off is Pistol Shrimp, which is actually this one. Okay, I have to talk to you a little bit. This one is yours.
Yes.
What is Pistol Shrimp about?
Pistol Shrimp is about a shrimp named Pistol Shrimp.
Okay, his name is.
Could you guess?
His full government name is Pistol Shrimp.
Well, that's what. This is a Wild West story.
Okay.
Okay, so everyone has fun names. He's
Yeah.
on a quest to find his wife,
Mhm.
Caroline. After they lived in a tank in a restaurant, and then they
Okay.
were dumped into the ocean, and they got separated. And now she was pregnant, and he's looking to go find her. And it's a complete like Western style, but with like sea creatures in the ocean instead.
Yeah.
It's the art is beautiful. Art is really well done. Like it's so much fun. It's kind of silly in a lot of places. I think the humor is really like well placed.
Yeah.
Um I have absolutely loved reading it. You can also buy a PDF for $1.
It's a
Of the first
dollar.
issue.
That's a
It's
steal,
$1.
honestly.
It's $1.
For pistol shrimp, that's a steal. And then from one of our other members of staff, they talked about Saga. If you don't know Saga, it's the best way to call. Is it a sci-fi fantasy epic? I call it a sci-fi.
Yeah,
epic.
sci-fi fantasy. Its technical genre is fantasy, but it does have a lot of like sci-fi galactic space travel.
Yeah, which makes me always. I'm always like, it's a sci-fi fantasy. Sci-fi fantasy. The two words, put them together and they annoy one or the other group of people. But this is the most lauded sci-fi fantasy epic. Put out by Image, written by I think Brian K. Vaughan. It's also on GlobalComix. Everything we're telling you about is on GlobalComix, and you can go read it. It's we've got all of Saga. You can go read it, and if you have a subscription, you can read it completely, like probably over the next couple of days if you're willing to binge read all of it. And
it's
like
great. We have the deluxe volumes and the volumes and
Yeah.
like the deluxe issues and the volumes. So we've got like multiple formats depending on what you want. So no worries.
We got you guys. We got you. And then you can also go. And then one of the other recommendations we got was The World Ends in Fire, which honestly is the most metal name ever. That's over from Zancon Entertainment, who is a creator, I believe.
Yeah.
See,
But
they just have like.
But it's drawn by someone that we all know and love.
Oh.
Yeah, Brendan from Marukiru.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Right? Yeah, that's like double awesome.
I was like, oh. But yeah, like, it's, oh God, we love Brendan. But yeah, like getting a good read of The World Ends in Fire, links in the chat. I think the first issue is $1.99 and the rest of it's like free to read. So like it's totally worth the read. One of the things I recommend if you're a creator as well is to read the work of other people. It just is very helpful to your process. And it's also good to just be able to lay back and like, cool off and just enjoy someone else's work. It's one of the things that helps you become a better creative, in my opinion, because it's the thing that you can only do when you're happy to learn. And at least that's how I feel about it.
No, I agree. It's important. You don't want to create in a vacuum. Like see what
Yeah.
other people are doing, be inspired by other people. I read manga. I read 16 comics. Every comic that gets featured each week, I make a point to read it. Yeah, I try to read all the comics that I feature, even if I can't get through all of it. I want to at least read as much as I can.
Yeah.
And understand like what's on the platforms. I want to be able to make recommendations, and I want to be inspired as a creator too.
100%, I agree. And then another recommendation that came from our beloved team was Duke, which is a comic again from Image. This is an Image week for the publisher recommendations,
right?
But it's Duke. It's an action comic taking place in the same like universe as like G.I. Joe and Transformers. So if you're not Transformers, G.I. Joe and something else. So if you're into that, that's there for you. And I'm a G.I. Joe fan, so I don't know why I'm saying it like I'm not into that.
It's the team from Transformers built in sort of like a G.I. Joe-esque.
Yeah, that's what it was. I was trying to remember. And then the last two recommendations are from me because I don't care. I put two. No one can stop me. The two recommendations for me this week are this month are Underbrush, which is by Arza. I keep saying Arza, right? It's Arza Art. And like I absolutely love Underbrush. It's just beautifully detailed. I'm red green colorblind, but for some reason, when things have grass, gives me so much joy. When things are like naturey, so much joy. And also, Nihil Guns is another one I'm recommending. It's super absurdist. It's a little bit juvenile, but like I like it. And I say that because it's like it's got dialogue that's like that might push you away, but I recommend you stick through it because everything about it is wonderful. The coloring, even eventually, then the dialogue even grows on you super hard because it's like it's the way the character talks, and it's a little bit. It's meant to be brash, and push you back. But when you get past it, right?
It's the art style of Neil Gunn's that really grabbed my attention. Like the first time that I saw it, like
Right.
the art style is incredibly unique. I love the limited color palette,
Oh,
and like they use like a font that goes well, a typeface that goes with their art.
yeah.
Like
it's
that.
It's so.
It's so cohesive. Yeah, exactly. It's
So
really
thought out.
cohesive. It's really well thought out.
Yeah.
Definitely something that's like edgier in like a fun way. Like it's
Yeah.
fun to read this.
100%.
It's not like an edgelord in a corner. It's a really really fun like comic just to read because the art style is incredibly different. I've not really seen anything.
I've never seen anything like this, and we both read a lot, and so
we both do.
So it's interesting when it's like this is completely new,
Yeah.
And so like that's that's what the staff's reading, and I wanted us to be able to talk about that, and like I'm just really glad that I can share that the team is as excited about comics as you guys are, and excited about what you're making as you could imagine, and keep making because we are definitely always reading it. It is for always true. Said this last month, I'll say it again. We are almost always going to read something you make. If you think we haven't seen it, we've probably seen it.
We see so much every week, and like I mean, Nan and I are always getting recommendations, and even like
always
other
getting recommendations.
we'll say, hey, have you seen this? Hey, have you seen that? Like we're always like recommending to each other and like sharing even in meetings. Like we'll bring up like, hey, have you seen this?
We derailed a whole meeting today because we were just talking about something that we read on the platform. It's a whole thing, dude. Anyway, it's big nerds.
Sounds like a bunch of nerds to me.
Massive nerds, dude. Massive nerds. Okay. All right. We got a Q&A section still ready. Unless
I think we've already answered the majority of the questions.
Yeah, but just in case anyone's got any questions, this is an any question place. So if you have any questions about the platform, making, maybe just want to ask us how we are, please Q&A, ask away. We just want to make sure that you feel comfortable being able to ask us anything because again, this is our Connect podcast, and we want to connect with you.
Yes.
God, it makes me sound. That sounds so 2008 daytime TV.
The Q&A ask away was also quite clever.
Oh, did I see that?
Yeah, you did. I heard that and I went, I should have said that.
You see, guys, this is evidence that I am a writer.
Very clever.
Thank you. I'm gonna keep that one and be proud of myself for the rest of my life.
While you guys get those questions, I'm gonna go ahead and link to the profiles of both of the
guests on our platform. Yeah.
Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and grab those.
Yeah. Also, all the links that we're talking about will be in the description. So if you're listening to this later, it'll be in the description in the pinned comment. There'll be a lot of links, but we think it's totally worth it, and you should go check all of them out. Tis a good day to recommend. While this is going on, I also want to just really thank Chris Hill and Chris Rhodes for everything. It was great to talk to both of them. They're so intelligent. They're so amazing, honestly. And like it was great to learn from them and be able to bring back what they taught me to you. And like, it was awesome. Rosie says, you guys are so smart. Rosie, listen, we stole this knowledge from everyone else. Don't worry. We got this from people smarter than us.
It's fun to just sit here and just get to kind of like have a moment where we get to talk with the community and share all the amazing things going on, sort of like behind the curtain a little bit,
For sure.
but also get to step out and do our little princess wave and say hello to everybody.
Princess wave. Okay, calm down.
I wish I was that cool.
We're not that cool. We're talking about
dream.
comics, man. Like this is where we are.
Well, I mean, okay. What if I had a princess costume?
Steal like an artist, as they say. Stealing like an artist is is a thing that I think about a lot. And before we go, I just want to say this one. Stealing like an artist is a very difficult thing to do, and I recommend that I recommend that if you want to steal like an artist in your work and in anything you say, that you realize that stealing like an artist is first developing with someone else's idea and then eventually making it your own entirely. Like that's what it is in a nutshell. And so at the end of it, you're still having to make a whole new thing by yourself. But if you want to steal like a YouTuber, which is something you can do too, which is still okay in art, it's called the yoink and twist. Take an idea that you like and like just add a little twist into it, add a little bit of spice, If you want to write a story about you want to write a story called Bane's God, which you can do completely. It's not illegal. You got to take what you see in your influence. I couldn't imagine what it could be, and you got to add a twist in there. You got to put a little oomph. I would, for example, make all of the gods in my story maybe Greek, maybe African, something different.
Or Great Danes.
Yeah, I would make them all. I would make them all chickens instead of letting them be like big serpents and dogs.
Oh my goodness.
I think big, guys. Bane's God is gonna go to the moon.
We don't literally mean like you don't want to do that.
Yeah, because it's called stealing, but what it is just the idea and the concept, right? Is something you can take. Like nobody owns a concept. What you want to do is you want to kind of like build on that. Right? Because I can't own the concept. Despite my best attempts, I am not allowed to own the concept for the hot dog gun that I made in college.
Hot dog gun?
I made a hot dog gun. Anybody can make a hot dog gun.
I have more questions
but
now.
My hot dog gun puts ketchup and mustard on the hot dog before it shoots it. So,
okay,
am I not clearly the superior hot dog gun creator? Exactly. The answer is yes.
Inspiration.
That's the yoink and twist, guys.
The yoink and twist, the inspiration that we take from those around. And that's the important thing is looking for ideas. Like one, like it's almost impossible to have a 100% complete.
It's almost impossible to what you cut out so hard.
Yeah, taking inspiration is really, it's important to look at like what what am I taking inspiration from, and to like sort of like have that vibe to you. Like when I like we're running out of time, but when I went to the they said that my main characters looked with Viz, they said that my characters looked like Inuyasha characters. Like they looked too much like the characters from Inuyasha. And I was like, really? And that was completely accidental, right? And so like you can even do it accidentally. And so he's there, and I was like, oh no, but it was accidental. And so
someone saying my characters look at Inuyasha characters would actually devastate me.
I love what Takahashi's work, but it was great because it gave me the idea of like, hey, I need to be more like thoughtful my own in terms of like what are they looking like, but to not take it as like an insult. Wow, thank you. Like I'm glad that this made you think of something that's really popular, but what can I do to make this inspiration my own to make this thing. To make this my own thing. And that's what's really important, is to like, it's okay to be inspired, it's okay to take inspiration, but like you never want to steal ideas.
You never want to like steal. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like take inspiration from something but make it your own. I mean, look at how many times like Red Riding Hood is, right? And every single Red Riding Hood is completely different.
They're all really different, and they all talk about different things. But before we're getting sidetracked, we got literally an offhand comment has ruined our. This is what we mean, guys. Big nerds in this house, only nerds. No one here is like a normie reader. We're just too busy reading books about how to write comics. We need to calm down.
We're just being nerds.
Okay, one last comment before we go. Since I don't have much life experience myself, I like to take inspiration from my parents' past. The different friends I have, an anime I obsess over, all sorts of movies. Inspiration should come to you from everything, and that's a really great way to get it. Thank you for sharing that, Rosie, because that's actually really good. Okay, we have to close. It needs to end. We will be here forever otherwise.
Aww.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight.
Take it easy, everyone. Have a wonderful time.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.